Imagine a quiet, snow-covered town waking up to a chilling mystery on the morning of December 26, 1996. The tranquility of Boulder, Colorado was shattered as whispers of a horrifying discovery began to circulate. In the heart of this peaceful town, nestled within an upscale neighborhood, lay the Ramsey family home, a picturesque setting turned into a nightmarish crime scene. In the basement of this grand home, hidden away from the merry remnants of Christmas celebrations, lay the lifeless body of 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey, a child who, just hours before, was alive with the joy of the festive season, now tragically stilled in the cold embrace of death. The eerie calmness of the crime scene was unsettling. There were no signs of a break-in, no indication of a struggle, just a haunting silence that echoed the chilling mystery of what had transpired. The house, once filled with laughter and cheer, was now a tomb, its secrets locked away in the quiet. As if the scene wasn't perplexing enough, a baffling piece of evidence was discovered. On the kitchen staircase, a ransom note. An oddity in itself, given the grim discovery in the basement. The note, written with an almost theatrical flair, demanded a specific amount of money for the safe return of JonBenet. It was a bewildering contradiction to the tragic reality. This was no ordinary crime scene. It was a puzzle, a twisted game of cat and mouse where the killer left behind more questions than answers. The ransom note, the absence of a break-in, the location of the body, each piece adding to the intricate web of mystery that would soon captivate the nation. The stage was set for one of America's most infamous unsolved crimes. As the sun rose over Boulder that December morning, the shadows of suspicion began to fall. The story of JonBenet Ramsey was just beginning, and it would prove to be a tale as haunting as the crime scene itself. Born into privilege, JonBenet Ramsey's life was no ordinary tale. As the daughter of affluent parents, her world was one of luxury and opulence, but beneath the veneer of perfection lay a life steeped in high expectations and intense pressure. From an early age, JonBenet was thrust into the limelight, a star in the making in the world of child beauty pageants. Her life, a whirlwind of rehearsals, performances, and crowns. Her wins were not just hers, but a testament to her parents' ambitions. Yet, amidst the sequins and sashes, there was a palpable weight, a yearning for the ordinary. Playtimes were traded for pageant practices, childhood innocence replaced with rehearsed poise. The world saw a radiant beauty queen, but behind the smiles and tiaras was a little girl navigating a life far beyond her tender years. In the midst of all the glitz and glamour was a little girl yearning for a normal childhood. JonBenet was not just a child, but a superstar in the making, or so her parents believed. With her angelic face and striking blonde hair, she quickly became a darling of the child beauty pageant circuit. JonBenet's parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, were not just ordinary parents. Their ambitious dreams for their daughter were far from ordinary. They envisioned JonBenet as a shining star, one whose light would bring them both fame and fortune. JonBenet's parents choreographed her every move, from her radiant smiles to her poised waves. They ensured she was always dressed to impress, her outfits often more glittering than those of her competitors, her hair always perfectly styled. The Ramseys were not just creating a pageant princess, they were building a brand. As JonBenet's star rose, so did the family's financial prospects. With every crown she won, every applause she received, the cash prizes rolled in. Rumors began to circulate, whispers that the Ramseys were not just nurturing a talent, but exploiting their child for monetary gain. This was a far cry from the innocence of a child's play. This was a high-stakes game. In the shadows of JonBenet's spotlight lurked her older brother, Burke. A typical kid, Burke was often overlooked, overshadowed by the radiant glow of his younger sister. Resentment began to simmer within him, a mixture of jealousy and frustration. The family dynamics were shifting, and not for the better. The Ramseys' grand design, their pursuit of fame and fortune, was beginning to take its toll. The pressure mounted, not just on JonBenet, but on the entire family. The public saw a superstar, a child prodigy, but behind closed doors, the reality was far different. The cost of stardom was high, and the family was paying the price. In the spotlight, the cracks in the picture-perfect family image began to show. The twinkling star was to be extinguished in the most horrifying manner. This is the tale of JonBenet Ramsey's tragic end. It was the day after Christmas, 1996, when the Ramsey household was plunged into an abyss of despair. The 6-year-old pageant queen, a beacon of joy and innocence, was found lifeless in the basement of her own home. The brutality of the crime was enough to send chills down the spine of the most hardened detective. The details of the murder were nothing short of horrifying. JonBenet had been strangled with a homemade garrote, her skull fractured by a blow to the head. Despite the brutality, there was an eerie lack of concrete evidence. No signs of forced entry, no foreign DNA, no incriminating fingerprints. It was as if the perpetrator had vanished into thin air. Even more chilling was the state of JonBenet's body when it was discovered. She was dressed in her favorite white nightgown, a blanket carefully draped over her. It was a grim tableau that seemed to mock the innocence that had been stolen from her. The autopsy revealed that JonBenet had been killed within hours of her last known sighting alive. This detail, combined with the lack of evidence, pointed towards an unsettling possibility: that the murderer was someone who had intimate knowledge of the Ramsey household. Despite an exhaustive investigation, the authorities were unable to pin down a concrete suspect. The lack of evidence was baffling, and the case quickly turned cold. It was as if JonBenet's murderer had vanished into the ether, leaving behind only a trail of unanswered questions and a grieving family. The death of JonBenet Ramsey was not just the loss of a promising young life, it marked the end of an era of innocence, a brutal reminder that even the most seemingly perfect families can hide dark secrets. As the world mourned for the little beauty queen, the mystery of her death continued to haunt the public imagination. The beauty queen's reign was cut short, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. A tale of tragedy, mystery, and a life that ended all too soon. In the midst of the chaos, a peculiar piece of evidence emerged: a ransom note. This was not just any ordinary ransom note. It was an anomaly, a 3-page-long letter, which in itself was unusual. Most ransom notes are brief to the point, leaving little room for error. But this one was different. It was verbose and filled with peculiarities that left investigators scratching their heads. The note demanded a specific amount for JonBenet's safe return: $118,000. A strange amount indeed for a ransom. The sum wasn't astronomical, as one might expect in a high-profile kidnapping. In fact, it was reported to be almost the exact value of a bonus that John Ramsey, JonBenet's father, had received that year. This curious detail cast a suspicious light upon the Ramsey family. The note's content itself was a puzzle. It was riddled with movie quotations and strange phrases. It referred to a small foreign faction, yet seemed to be written by someone with intimate knowledge of the Ramsey family and their finances. It was as if the kidnapper was trying to throw investigators off the track, yet left clues that pointed right back at the family. And then there was the handwriting. Forensic analysts examined the note, comparing it to samples from various individuals. They found similarities between the note and Patsy Ramsey's handwriting. However, the evidence wasn't strong enough to conclusively point the finger at her. It was another dead end in a case filled with them. Finally, the note was written on paper from a pad found in the Ramseys' house, using a pen from their home. The kidnapper had seemingly taken their time writing the note in the house, either before or after the murder. This detail, more than any other, sent chills down the spines of those following the case. The ransom note, instead of providing answers, only deepened the mystery. With every twist and turn, the case of JonBenet Ramsey proved to be a perplexing puzzle, one that remains unsolved to this day. In a shocking twist, the grieving parents became the prime suspects. The Ramsey family, once the picture of perfection, was now under the scrutiny of the nation. John and Patsy Ramsey, JonBenet's parents, found themselves in the hot seat as inconsistencies began to emerge in their statements. From the very beginning, their behavior was somewhat unusual. Despite the tragic loss of their daughter, they seemed detached, their public displays of grief striking some as rehearsed, even artificial. But what really caught the eye of the investigators were the discrepancies in their accounts of that fateful night. The time frames didn't add up, the sequence of events was muddled, and the more they were questioned, the more their story seemed to change. Moreover, the Ramseys' lack of cooperation with the police raised eyebrows. They refused to give separate interviews, insisting on being questioned together. This was far from the norm in such investigations and further fueled the suspicions against them. Why would innocent parents not do everything in their power to help find their daughter's killer? Then there was the matter of the ransom note. Found by Patsy Ramsey, the note demanded exactly the amount of John's bonus that year. An oddly specific sum for a kidnapper to request. Handwriting experts couldn't conclusively link the note to Patsy, but they couldn't rule her out either. The note, written on a pad from the Ramsey home with a pen found in the house, was unusually long for a ransom note. The tone, too, was peculiar, almost theatrical, as if the writer was trying too hard to sound like a criminal. The very people who should have protected JonBenet were now under the microscope. As the prime suspects, John and Patsy Ramsey were trapped in a chilling paradox. They were mourning parents, yet potential perpetrators of the very crime that left them childless. It was a disturbing twist in an already horrifying tale, a development that left the nation grappling with the unthinkable. Despite the passage of time, the case of JonBenet Ramsey continues to haunt the nation. The story of this 6-year-old beauty queen, whose life was abruptly ended in December of 1996, remains a chilling enigma that has captivated and perplexed millions. To recap, JonBenet was an ambitious starlet, pushed into the limelight by her parents. Her childhood, while glamorous on the surface, was tinged with the shadow of exploitation. The family dynamics were complex, with a jealous older brother adding another layer to the story. Then came the chilling discovery of JonBenet's lifeless body in the basement of her Boulder, Colorado home, the cryptic ransom note, and the curious behavior of her parents. All these elements have fueled endless theories and speculations. The evidence was puzzling. The strangulation and blunt force trauma suggested a violent encounter. Yet, the intricately drafted ransom note found in the house hinted at a planned abduction. The odd amount demanded, exactly matching Mr. Ramsey's Christmas bonus, cast suspicion on the parents. But then, the DNA found at the scene didn't match any family member. The case was a labyrinth of contradictions. As years rolled on, the fascination with JonBenet's case didn't wane. Instead, it became a cultural phenomenon, inspiring countless documentaries, books, and even a miniseries. Theories ranged from family involvement to an intruder or even a serial killer. Some speculated about the pageant world's dark underbelly, while others pointed fingers at the brothers' apparent jealousy. The public's obsession with the case, however, goes beyond the tantalizing mystery. It's a stark reminder of the vulnerability of children, even in seemingly safe environments. Furthermore, it underscores society's often unhealthy obsession with child stardom and the potential risks it can pose. In the end, the tragic tale of JonBenet Ramsey remains an unsolved puzzle, a chilling reminder of a childhood lost too soon.